Good evening. Tonight we're going to be talking about Christian education. But before we start, let's ask the question, what's so important about teachers anyway? What impact do they really have? According to a survey found on brainly.com, 25% of an average elementary student's day is spent in school. This is second only to 33% of their time that's spent sleeping. That statistic should tell you clearly the effect of a teacher on the students in their class it's huge. Not only are most of us affected by our own education, but we also are responsible for educating our children, choosing where and who will be in charge of their education. As long as people have children that need to be educated, there will be a need for godly, educated, qualified teachers. I attended a Christian school, and I now teach in a Christian school, so I have much experience on this subject. And if you want to have a significant impact on the lives of others by helping them develop a biblical worldview, then working in Christian education may be the job for you. A Christian educator will help their students develop a biblical worldview academically, socially, and spiritually, which follows the biblical mandate to train up a child in the way he should go. Before we begin, let me answer the question, what is a biblical worldview? A biblical worldview is simply observing the world through the lens of God's truth. Also, you could say it's applying the knowledge of God and His Word as we learn about the world around us. This skill can be accomplished in various ways. The first way that teachers accomplish imparting a biblical worldview is through academic training. The average school day is just over 6.5 hours, according to the National Center for Education. In an elementary classroom, most of that time will be spent with the same teacher. An elementary teacher is responsible for teaching all of the core subjects. And in a Christian school, you have the opportunity to get these subjects taught all within the view of God's Word. And we see here history and literature, grammar, spelling, and handwriting, math and science are all taught with the viewpoint of God's Word. Biblical principles can also be taught as the teacher works with the kids in the daily work of school. Do all to the glory of God, and let all things be done decently and in order, are just some of the principles that a teacher can academically impart to her students. Also, academics are just one part of the education that a Christian school teacher can give to her students. Socially, teachers also deal with students on a regular basis. Meteor magazine stated that the interpersonal relationships are a vital part of the classroom, although they have little to do with the curriculum content. The classroom setting forces students to interact with their peers that come from various backgrounds and cultures. You may have an affluent student sitting beside a student who comes from a financially struggling family. You may have an only child who has to work with students who come from large families. These interactions are inevitably going to lead to conflict, and they will give teachers the opportunity to teach biblical principles like kindness and forgiveness. Teachers also have the opportunity to teach the values of respect and obedience to authority. Even in a Christian school, the teachers are often the only example of godly leadership that their students will see. Now, teachers in both public and private schools have the opportunity to train their students academically and socially. However, working in a Christian school gives a unique opportunity to teachers in Christian schools that public schools don't have. And that is, they're able to develop their students spiritually. Christian school teachers are expected to incorporate the Bible in their classroom every day, both in their curriculum and then also in weekly chapels and extra events that put the Bible in front of the students. As a teacher, your goal is not just to tell the students the stories, but to teach them how to study the Bible on their own. For example, in my classroom, we learned to ask questions. Who wrote this passage? Who was it written to? Why did the author write this passage? Or maybe, why do we think God included this in His Word? All of these questions help students learn how to dig into God's Word for themselves. Kyle Stasma wrote that academics, theology, and biblical studies at their best give you the tools to look at the message of the Scriptures critically and acknowledging that you are part of the story. Choosing a Christian school education vocation gives teachers the opportunity to share their knowledge and love of learning in the field that matters more than anything else, growing students in their Christian lives. Choosing Christian education will give educators the opportunity to impart a biblical worldview, academically, socially, and spiritually. If this sounds appealing to you, I encourage you to look into this field. As we close, consider again the words of Solomon, the wisest man who ever lived. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Thank you.